Hello, and thank you for joining me for another virtual Vitamin Z, where we bring the Detroit Zoo to you. My name is Zahraa. I'm an education specialist at the Detroit Zoological Society, where we celebrate and save wildlife every day. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit more about bald eagles. Bald eagles have a long history with the United States, and we'll get to know a little more about that history, as well as learn the rescue stories of the bald eagles living here at the Detroit Zoo. But before we do that, let's take a look at some vocabulary words. There's not a lot of vocabulary words today. We're just going to focus on apex predators and incubation. And both of these are really important for the story of the bald eagles. All right, so let's take a look at a map. So this right here is a map of the world, and we know that we live right over here, or the Detroit Zoo is found right over here where Michigan is in North America. Bald eagles are only local to, or only found in North America. So we're going to look at their range. They're found throughout most of the United States and the bottom half of Canada. And as part of the United States, they're also found in Alaska. And this is one of the reasons that many people back in the 1700s wanted the eagle to be listed as America's national symbol or national animal. So it came down to wild turkeys and the bald eagle. And for about 6 years, it was a very heated debate about which animal should be the national symbol. Benjamin Franklin was actually one of those people who was very opposed to the bald eagle. He felt like as an apex predator, or a predator who lives at the top of the food chain, who hunts other animals and preys on other animals and is a bit of a thief in taking what they want, the bald eagle wasn't really a good role model, and he preferred the wild turkey. But the bald eagle has had a part in many Native American stories and is seen as a symbol of strength and courage and independence. And these were the features that a new young country wanted to express. They wanted to be seen as strong, independent, and courageous like a bald eagle. So in 1789, the debate was over and the bald eagle was listed as the national symbol. So this is a bald eagle here. You can see the white feathers on top that gives it the bald name. So that's actually where the bald comes from. It's the white feathers, not the lack of feathers on top. And the bald eagles have had a long history with the United States and have been found throughout history, but that wasn't always going to be the case. In 1940, they faced a very big threat. There were from thousands and thousands of eagles down to about only 400 breeding pairs in the 48 states. Bald eagles required a lot of action and a lot of people to come together and make sure that the conservation was working. All right, so the first thing that needed to happen is they needed to notice that the population was declining. So conservationists noticed that the population of bald eagles was declining year after year to as low as 400 breeding pairs. After that, they needed to find out what was causing the decline. So they looked around, they saw that the bald eagles appeared to be healthy. The adults that they found, the 400 they did find, seemed healthy and okay, so what else could be wrong? Next, they examined the nest, and that's where they found something that could be causing the problem. Inside the nests, they were finding a lot of crushed eggs, and that's not okay because bald eagles hatch from eggs, and these eggs need to be intact in order to hatch into bald eagle babies. So they looked into these eggs to see what was happening. And they studied these nests to try to figure out what the problem was. And what they found was during incubation, or when the bald eagle adult would lay on top of the eggs, these eggs would be crushed under the weight of the bald eagle. And that wasn't okay because incubation was the only way the eggs were going to hatch. That laying on top and keeping them warm for that month was the only way they were going to hatch. So why was it all of a sudden so weak that the egg can no longer withstand the power or the weight of an adult that was incubating it? What they found was it had to do with the fact that bald eagles were apex predators. So what does it mean to be an apex predator? This means bald eagles hunt or eat other animals who eat other animals, who eat other animals, who eat plants. So for example, as a very simplified food web, or food chain, we're going to look at the bald eagle who eats a big fish, who eats a small fish, who eats plants in the water. And what they found was that this entire food chain was at risk because of a chemical called DDT. So DDT is a pesticide farmers were using on plants to keep insects away. And you're probably thinking, wait a minute, you said they hunt fish on in the water. So what does anything on land have to do with the water? And that's a really good question. But what ended up happening is pesticide that was sprayed on the plants was washing away into the water. Once it got in there, it affected the fish, it affected the plants, and it affected the insects that live in the water. And it moved its way up the food chain. So that plant was eaten by some fish, from really small fish, and now that small fish has DDT that they've acquired from living in the water and DDT from eating the plants. Those fish were eaten by larger fish who now acquired the plant's DDT, their own DDT, as well as all the fish that they eat. The bald eagle eats the large fish who ate all of those. And now they've acquired a very high concentration of DDT, or a high amount, because they're getting the amount in the water, they're getting the amount in the plants, and in the small fish and large fish. And while this wasn't having any physical effects on them as a species, it was causing females to lay eggs that were really, really thin and could no longer withstand the strength of the adult, or the weight of the adult eagle as it tried to incubate the egg or keep it warm for that time frame, and they were getting crushed. But remember, this isn't just a cautionary tale. This is also a tale of how well humans can work together and fix issues that we've caused. By banning the use of DDT, strictly enforcing anti-hunting laws that were in place to protect the bald eagle, and working together with farmers and conservationists and the government, they were able to remove DDT from the environment and rebuild that population of bald eagles so that it was more stable. Today, bald eagles are no longer listed as endangered in many of the states that they used to be endangered in. And that's all because of all the efforts taken to fix the problem that humans inadvertently caused. All right, I do want to share a picture of a eagle's nest that was taken by a friend of mine on Belle Isle. And it's really important, it's really cool to see the eagles nesting in urban areas like Belle Isle, because it just shows the strength of how this population was able to grow. Another thing I wanted to show in this picture was the nest, because bald eagles build some really impressive nests. Their nests are about 4 to 5 feet wide and about 1 to 2 feet deep. And the same pair of eagles will come back and revisit that nest year in after year and expand it. So they can get up to 9 feet wide. Actually, the only time they stop using it is when it gets so heavy for the tree that it kind of collapses. And then they just go ahead and build their nest somewhere else in that same area. It is a very far away picture, but I do want to point out the baby over here still does not have the full white feathers that is characteristic of the bald eagle. They get that at about around 5 years old. All right, so I did also promise rescue stories of the 3 bald eagles who live here at the Detroit Zoo, so let's get to that. This over here is the oldest of the 3 bald eagles. His name is Flash. He was found he came to the Detroit Zoo in 2007. He actually came here all the way from Alaska. You can kind of see the injury on his wing right over here, but it's much more obvious when he opens his wing. Flash was injured in a lightning storm, and a hole was put into the fold of his wing that rendered him unable to fly. And it's really important for an apex predator or a bird of prey like Flash to be able to fly to survive in the wild. So it's really nice that he was able to find sanctuary at the Detroit Zoo. And all right, he shares that space with Mr. America. Mr. America is the smallest of the 3. He came here in 2017, not 2007. He is a fully grown adult male. He's about 7 years old. But he is very small for his age. And again, he was also injured, had a partially amputated wing, can no longer fly. And I have I'll show you another picture of Mr. America in a second, but I did want to mention that he was injured and came from Indiana. All right, the last bald eagle is Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel came to the Detroit Zoo in 2020. And she was actually rescued right here in Michigan. She was found pretty injured after a collision with what they believe to be as a train. And she also required a partial amputation to her wing and could no longer survive in the wild. So here's a picture of Captain Marvel and Mr. America together. So Mr. America is small for his age, or small for his size. As an adult male, he should be a little bigger than he is, but for whatever reason, he is a smaller size. But even so, males are smaller than females, and you can really tell the difference between the two of them when they're standing next to each other. And it's really easy to tell them apart. Another way to tell them apart is Captain Marvel, the female, is only at 4 years old. And she is still getting her white feathers. It's less obvious now because she's almost at that 5-year-old stage where she will have completely white feathers, but you can see that she has a brighter beak, some brownish feathers in her head, or on her head, and is about the size of Flash. And she'll probably get bigger because females tend to be bigger than males. All right, so these are the 3 bald eagles who live at the Detroit Zoo, and all 3 were rescued. Another interesting fact to know about bald eagles is it's actually illegal to pick up a feather's wing if you find it on the floor and to keep it. And this extends to places like zoos. So every year when these bald eagles molt or lose their feathers, all the feathers are collected and sent back to the United States Fish and Wildlife Services. And then these feathers are sent out to Native American tribes who apply and have applied to use them because they want to use them for religious purposes. All right, so today's activity is actually not inspired by the feathers, but inspired by the eggs and the strength of the eggs of the bald eagle. So to do this activity, you'll need just a few materials. You'll need some paper and some tape. And then you also need like a heavy object to test your design. You can use books, you can use cans, you can get creative. All right, and all you're going to do is you're going to try and build a structure that can support up to 15 pounds. You can try to aim for more, but bald eagles tend to range from 10 to 15 pounds. So we're going to try to aim for that 15 pounds and try to build a structure using just paper that can hold up to 15 pounds. So I have an example of one right over here. It doesn't hold quite enough pounds, but you can see here that they've created tubes out of the paper and we're able to stack some books on top. But again, you can use whatever you want and your design can be very different than this as long as you get that 15 pounds. So doing this activity lets you practice important skills like creativity. I do want to see the craziest and most creative designs. Also, as well as you practice some perseverance because you will have your design crush every few times. And then you get to practice your engineering design, which are all important maths and science skills. All right, so thank you so much for joining me for another virtual dose of vitamin Z. If you want to share your designs or want to let me know how much weight you were able to stack, go ahead and email your results to education@dzs.org. In the meantime, thank you for watching and be sure to check out the Detroit Zoo's website for more virtual vitamin Z.